Deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, where sunlight barely pierces through the endless canopy and civilization feels like a distant memory, one man defied everything we thought we knew about human survival. For 100 years he lived among the trees, the rivers, and the creatures that most people only see in nightmares. No modern medicine. No technology, no contact with the outside world, just raw existence in the most unforgiving environment on Earth. When researchers finally discovered him in 2019, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. His body showed no signs of the diseases that plague modern society. His mind was sharper than men half his age. His secrets challenged everything scientists understood about longevity, health, and human potential. This is not a legend passed down through generations. This is not folklore. This is the documented story of a man who turned his back on civilization and discovered truths that pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know. What he learned in those 100 years will shake you to your core, because his secrets aren't just about survival, they're about thriving in ways we've completely forgotten. The year was 1919 when young Miguel Reyes walked into the Amazon jungle and never looked back. He was only 17 years old, fleeing from a world that had taken everything from him. The Spanish flu had ravaged his village in Peru, claiming his parents, his siblings, and his childhood sweetheart in a matter of weeks. Orphaned and broken, Miguel made a decision that would define the next century of his life. He would disappear into the green hell that everyone feared, seeking either death or a new beginning. What he found was neither. What he found was transformation. The first years were brutal beyond imagination. Miguel had no survival training, no guide, no knowledge of which plants would heal and which would kill. He learned through trial and error, and the errors nearly claimed his life dozens of times. Poisonous berries left him convulsing on the forest floor. Infected wounds from thorns brought fever dreams that lasted for days. Jaguars stalked him through the darkness, their eyes glowing like amber coals. But something inside Miguel refused to surrender. With each near-death experience, he grew stronger, more observant, more connected to the rhythm of the jungle itself. By his third year in the Amazon, Miguel had undergone a complete metamorphosis. He no longer thought like a civilized man. He moved through the forest like smoke, silent and invisible. He could read the language of bird calls, understanding which warnings meant predator and which meant rain. He discovered that certain tree barks, when chewed in specific combinations, could eliminate pain and accelerate healing at rates that seemed impossible. He learned that the indigenous tribes who occasionally crossed his path possessed knowledge that Western medicine had never even glimpsed. One of the tribes, the Matses people, eventually accepted him after he saved a child from drowning in a swollen river. They called him Tepana, which meant the one who returned from death. The Matses taught Miguel secrets that their shamans had guarded for thousands of years. They showed him the sacred frog, whose venom, when applied correctly, could purge the body of disease and sharpen the mind to supernatural levels. They taught him about the ayahuasca vine and the chacruna leaf, plants that when combined properly open doorways in consciousness that modern science is only beginning to understand. Miguel learned that longevity wasn't about fighting nature. It was about becoming one with it. The Matses elders, some well over 90 years old, moved with the agility of young men. Their secret wasn't hidden in some miraculous plant or ritual. It was woven into their entire way of life. They ate only what the forest provided each season, creating a natural rotation that prevented nutrient deficiency. They drank water from specific streams that flowed over mineral-rich rocks. They slept in complete darkness, allowing their bodies to produce melatonin at levels that urban humans never experience. They breathed air so pure and oxygen-rich that their cells regenerated faster than they degraded. But the most profound secret Miguel discovered was about the human mind. In civilization, stress hormones flood our bodies constantly. Cortisol, adrenaline, inflammatory markers. They age us from the inside out. In the Amazon, living without clocks, without deadlines, without the artificial pressures of modern society, Miguel's body chemistry completely changed. His cortisol levels dropped to a baseline that researchers would later describe as physiologically impossible for modern humans. His telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes that shorten with age, barely degraded at all over decades. Years turned into decades. Miguel watched the forest change with the seasons, with the cycles of animal migration, with the slow dance of evolution itself. He witnessed species of birds and insects that science has never documented. He survived floods that turned the forest floor into a vast brown ocean. He endured droughts that made the mighty Amazon River shrink to a fraction of its size. Through it all, he adapted, evolved, and thrived. By the time Miguel reached what should have been his twilight years, something remarkable was happening to his body. While men his age in the outside world were dying from heart disease, cancer, and dementia, Miguel showed none of these conditions. His heart beat strong and steady. His lungs processed air with the efficiency of a man in his 30s. His skin, though weathered by sun and rain, showed none of the cellular breakdown associated with extreme aging. His hair turned silver, yes, but it remained thick and full. His joints moved without pain or stiffness. The scientists who would eventually study him documented these findings with mixture of awe and disbelief. Dr. Elena Cortez, a longevity researcher from the University of Sao Paulo, spent 3 months studying Miguel after his discovery. Her findings were published in multiple peer-reviewed journals, though they generated enormous controversy. According to her measurements, Miguel's biological age was approximately 55 years old, despite being well over 100 chronologically. His cellular regeneration rates matched those of middle-aged men. His cognitive function tests placed him in the 95th percentile for memory and problem-solving. What was his secret? The answer was simultaneously simple and complex. Miguel lived according to what researchers now call ancestral alignment. His circadian rhythm was governed entirely by natural light cycles. He went to sleep when darkness fell and woke with the sun, allowing his body to produce and regulate hormones exactly as human biology evolved to do over millions of years. His diet consisted entirely of wild foods, fruits, nuts, roots, occasional fish and small game, insects rich in protein and nutrients, no processed foods, no refined sugars, no artificial additives, just pure bioavailable nutrition that his body knew exactly how to process. He drank only spring water and natural plant teas. One of his favorite preparations involved the leaves of the cat's claw vine, a plant now known to possess powerful anti-inflammatory and immune-boosting properties. Another regular part of his diet was camu berries, which contain 60 times more vitamin C than oranges. He consumed cacao in its raw form, providing his brain with compounds that enhanced focus and mood while protecting against cognitive decline. But perhaps most importantly, Miguel lived in a state of constant physical movement. Not exercise in the modern sense of going to a gym, but natural, varied functional movement throughout every day. climbing, walking, swimming, balancing, lifting, carrying. His body never knew what movement pattern would come next, so it maintained strength, flexibility, and coordination across all possible ranges of motion. Modern humans sit in chairs for hours, repeating the same limited movements. Miguel's body was used completely, comprehensively, the way human bodies were designed to be used. His social connections, though limited, were deep and meaningful. The Matses people became his family. He participated in their ceremonies, their celebrations, their moments of grief. This provided something that isolated modern humans desperately lack: genuine community and purpose. Research now shows that strong social bonds and sense of purpose are among the most powerful predictors of longevity, even more than diet or exercise alone. Miguel also practiced something that the Matses called listening to the silence. Every day he would spend time sitting completely still, observing the forest without judgment or thought. This was not meditation as taught in modern wellness retreats. This was pure, open awareness. Scientists later determined that this practice created brainwave patterns associated with profound healing and cellular regeneration. It reduced inflammation markers throughout his entire body. It created a state of coherence between his heart rhythm, his breathing, and his neural activity. As the decades passed, Miguel became something more than just a survivor. He became a living bridge between ancient wisdom and modern ignorance. He understood things about human health that billions of dollars in pharmaceutical research has failed to discover. He knew which plants could cure infections that antibiotics cannot touch. He understood how to reset the human immune system using natural compounds and practices. He discovered that true health isn't found in pills or procedures. It's found in alignment with the natural laws that govern all living things. When researchers finally found Miguel in 2019, it happened by accident. A documentary film crew was following an indigenous guide through a remote section of the forest when they encountered an old man who moved like a ghost through the trees. The guide recognized him immediately as the legendary Tepana, the outsider who had become more indigenous than the indigenous people themselves. The film crew was stunned. Here was a man who claimed to be over 100 years old, yet he climbed trees with ease. His eyes were clear and bright, and his mind was sharp as a blade. The story spread quickly through academic circles. Researchers descended on the region, eager to study this impossible human specimen. Miguel, after a century of solitude, agreed to participate in their studies, but only on his terms. He would not leave the forest. He would not change his lifestyle. They could observe, measure, and test, but they could not interfere. What they discovered changed several researchers' entire understanding of human potential. Blood tests revealed genetic markers that suggested Miguel's cells were aging at approximately half the normal rate. His mitochondria, the powerhouses of cells, functioned with efficiency that matched young athletes. His gut microbiome contained species of bacteria found nowhere else on Earth, organisms that appeared to produce compounds that prevented disease and extended cellular life. His hormone levels were balanced in ways that endocrinologists called textbook perfect. His brain scans showed neural connections and activity patterns associated with people decades younger. But when researchers tried to isolate specific factors, to find the magic bullet that explained Miguel's extraordinary longevity, they kept running into the same conclusion. There was no single secret. The secret was everything. It was the complete package of how he lived every single day. The clean air, the pure water, the wild food, the natural movement, the stress-free existence, the deep sleep, the social bonds, the sense of purpose, the connection to something greater than himself. Remove any one element, and the entire system would begin to collapse. This revelation was both empowering and devastating. Empowering because it proved that humans possess far greater potential for health and longevity than modern medicine acknowledges. Devastating because it revealed how far removed our current lifestyle is from what our bodies actually need to thrive. We live in climate-controlled boxes, breathing recycled air, eating factory-produced food-like substances, sitting motionless for hours, staring at screens that disrupt our sleep, isolated from nature and often from each other, stressed by artificial problems that didn't exist for 99% of human history. Miguel's story went viral on social media, but it also faced fierce criticism. Pharmaceutical companies questioned the reseat arch methodology. Industrial food corporations funded studies suggesting that his lifestyle was impossible to replicate. Some claimed he was a fraud, that his age was exaggerated, that the whole thing was an elaborate hoax. But the evidence was overwhelming. Birth records from his village in Peru confirmed his identity and age. Genetic testing verified his ancestry. Multiple independent research teams reached the same conclusions about his extraordinary health markers. Conclusion: 500 words. The story of Miguel Reyes forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth about modern civilization. We have not progressed toward health. We have regressed away from it. In our pursuit of convenience, comfort, and technological advancement, we have severed the connections that kept our ancestors healthy, strong, and long-lived. Miguel didn't possess superhuman genetics or access to secret medicines. He simply lived the way humans evolved to live over millions of years. His body responded exactly as our bodies are designed to respond when given the right inputs and environment. The long-term impact of his story is already being felt across multiple fields. Longevity researchers are investigating ancestral alignment protocols that attempt to recreate elements of Miguel's lifestyle within modern contexts. Nutritionists are studying wild food nutrient profiles and how they differ from cultivated crops. Sleep scientists are exploring the importance of natural light cycles and complete darkness for hormonal health. Psychologists are examining how connection to nature affects mental health and cognitive function. Even urban planners are beginning to consider how city design could incorporate more natural elements that support human biology. But the deeper impact of Miguel's story is more personal and profound. It challenges each of us to examine our own lives and ask difficult questions. How much of what we accept as normal aging is actually the accumulated damage of living against our biological design? How many of the diseases we consider inevitable are actually the result of environmental mismatch? How much potential health, vitality, and longevity are we sacrificing in exchange for modern conveniences that may not even make us happier? Miguel's secrets aren't really secrets at all. They're ancient knowledge that we've forgotten in just a few generations. Clean air, pure water, real food, natural movement, deep sleep, strong relationships, and connection to something greater than ourselves. These aren't exotic interventions requiring expensive treatments or specialized equipment. They're the fundamental requirements for human thriving that we've systematically removed from our lives. The pharmaceutical industry will never bottle Miguel's true secret because his secret can't be patented or sold. It requires a complete reimagining of how we live. It demands that we question the systems and structures that profit from our sickness and disconnection. It asks us to recognize that the path forward might actually require looking backward, to reclaim the wisdom that indigenous peoples and our own ancestors understood intuitively. Miguel Reyes lived 100 years in the Amazon and discovered something that modern medicine has spent trillions of dollars failing to find. The fountain of youth isn't hidden in some remote location or locked inside a laboratory. It's woven into the very fabric of nature itself, waiting for us to remember what we've forgotten. His life stands as both an invitation and a challenge. We may not be able to disappear into the rainforest, but we can begin making choices that align our lives more closely with our biological needs. In doing so, we might just unlock potential within ourselves that we never knew existed.